All right. All right. Happy Wednesday evening. You can see the tick count here. We've been fairly negative after the announcement on ticks, which means the markets were heading lower. Interesting enough, the Dow actually was the strongest today. There's the Dow. Well, I shouldn't say that. Let me look at the E-mini. I haven't looked at that since the announcement. Yeah, it's been the strongest. It's been the strongest. The NASDAQ came down. The Dow's hanging on right now. Okay. Okay, how's everyone doing today? Dr. Keith here. Hope you're doing well. I had a few emails from y'all last week asking how I was doing since I'm in Oregon with the fires, and I'm safe. My family's safe. Thanks for asking. We're in Bend, Oregon, which is Central Oregon, and so we're getting all the smoke. Our air quality is about as bad as it can get, but we are safe from fires at this point. Okay, can everybody, first of all, again, can you hear me okay? And can you see the Thinkorswim screen? Always important to make sure. Thank you. Good to see you all. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is kind of go over an analysis of what I see. Last week when we talked, we were looking to see if the markets were going to head higher. My thought was that this 50 period or the bottom Bollinger Band would hold, and so far it's holding. Okay, obviously with the Fed announcement today, we had a little bit of volatility in the markets, but in saying that, not too negative. I know they're keeping interest rates forever where they're at, but there was some negative news on the economy, right? Which, again, imagine that. So again, I'm really interested to see if this is going to hold. I was in a QQQ trade that I got out at before the close today, right here. The reason being, I was down about, I think it was 58% on the option play, and it was an expiration a couple more weeks. But the trigger, I got in off a 4-hour trigger. I was expecting a push up sooner than later, and it doesn't mean we won't have an update tomorrow, but I'd rather get out and then look to re-enter. Okay. There's also something else interesting I'm going to talk about with the indexes going into next week. So, end of day in a shorter term trade, if I'm down 50% or more, I typically will get out of that. Okay, for the shorter term trades. Looked like yesterday on Tuesday, again, it looked like we were going to head higher, and then with the Fed announcement, it's heading a little bit lower. Could we have a move up tomorrow? Absolutely. Okay, but I'd rather just start over. If we get a gear off the daily, I'll look to re-trigger, except for one little tidbit I'll tell you about here in a little bit. Okay, so we're not always right, nor do we, expect to be. But if you can win 8 out of 10 trades and keep your risk reward equal or close to that, right, you do really well. Okay, so what am I expecting though? So on the QQQ, let me bring up the futures and let me talk about it. It doesn't matter. We'll keep the NQ for now. Okay. So a couple things here, folks. You look at the seasonal, you're like, well, yeah, why'd you get out? Again, there's something very interesting though about going into next week. Okay. I call it a seasonal within a seasonal. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is typically going into this Friday can be bearish. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week are typically bearish. Okay. So I'm expecting, if the markets come up the next couple days, maybe to this 20 period again, and then roll over. Okay, I think we're gonna head lower. We may hold at the bottom band, but I think we're going to head lower early next week, maybe the entire week. Then eventually we're going to bounce much higher, okay? But because I have data that suggests early next week we typically head down, and because I'm in a position that's not making money, I didn't want to hang on to that, okay? Now, am I worried about, like, for example, I'm in Tesla. I've been up about as much as 25% or so. I think I'm up 12 right now. I'm hanging on to this because, remember, this is a January expiration. And, you know, in a day that the NASDAQ, you know, didn't do that well, the E-minis didn't do that well, you know, it pretty much held its own pretty well here. So that's a bullish stock. If we head close to these highs, I will eliminate some of my trade. There's no reason to get greedy, but then I want to hold on to a portion for the longer term, okay? Okay, so let's talk about first the dollar index as well. So remember, by the way, I added this 50 period just to show you, you know, when you're in a massive trend, a lot of you like moving averages. So if you're going to use a moving average, I like the 50. Typically, it's really good support and resistance, right? And a lot of times when you see the Bollinger Band, top Bollinger Band in this case, and the 50 period right here with this massive downtrend, okay, if it were to come back up and hit this area, you know, I would look for it to head back down again. We'll probably hit new lows on the dollar before we change direction, as we've talked about, okay? So again, as you know, I don't like to have too many indicators on a screen. You don't need that, especially if you're using seasonal data. But I think the 50 period, you know, can be useful at times. So feel free to put that on your charts as well with the Bollinger Band if you're you know, looking for that. I mean, again, you could say, what about the 200 period moving average? Of course, but again, then all of a sudden you have, you know, 13 indicators, different moving averages, and then you never want to take a trade, okay? So I'm aware of it. I can actually run scans on a 200 period moving average, but in all honesty, I think going in the direction of a Laguerre trigger with a seasonal move is a good play. That's what I've been doing for years, and you know, more than likely this dollar index is going to head lower before we head higher, okay? All right, bonds. This is the ZB in Thinkorswim 30-year bonds, okay? So again, you can see the nice downward move, right? I had put a trade out. I was buying a put yesterday, never got filled, so I canceled it this morning because overnight on the TLT it was. Let me just bring up the TLT for you. Because overnight we had a move up in the futures market, and I didn't want to get filled at a bad price, so I canceled it. So what you know, that's the cool thing about trading stocks. If you understand the futures, you can you know, get yourself in and out before the trade if you don't like it. So anyway, in this case, if you would have stayed in, you would have got a pretty good fill, and you'd be okay at this point. The Laguerre was, you know, signaling a curve back up. So what's my plan on the bonds? I definitely want to do a short play, and again, it's till mid-November, roughly a December expiration. So if I am doing a TLT play here, I'm going to see what happens overnight tonight, and then look to pull the trigger here again soon on a short play. I'd like to see that Laguerre head back down, which after today's price action, when it opens up tomorrow, that's more than likely what's going to happen, okay? So we're getting close again. If you didn't cancel the trade and you're in it, you're good to go at this point. Okay, let me talk about the VIX. So you can see today, you know, the VIX did a spike up, right? We were at 26, it's up to 30. And the markets, again, the odd thing is right, the Dow is actually roughly even today, but the NASDAQ and the S&P are down, but not significantly really, okay? So I talked about this in my Sunday video, but you know, the VIX has been acting a little strange, And what does that mean? Well, you know, half the people out there will say it's bearish, half will say bullish, half of them will be right at some point, right? What I tell people though is when we have things that aren't acting as normal as it should, okay, just be cautious. So my expectations are that we head higher. We're probably going to get a curve back up on the Laguerre. We'll probably head higher on the VIX between now and the end of next week. Then things will resume back heading lower with a nice uptrend. Okay, so I think the stock market's going to go higher going into late next week or the following, but I think it will head lower over, you know, early next week especially. And there's actually a really good day trade I like to do on Monday that I'll share with you all as well as we get closer. But typically what I like to do is when the market opens up on Monday, you know, let's say you want to trade the SPX. Okay, you can go to a 5-minute chart as an example. Ooh. Intraday. Let me start over there. I locked myself out. All right, so you can do 5 days, 5 minutes. So just as an example, okay? So then what you can do is you can say, okay, I'm looking for shorts Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm looking for a shorter term trade, and you wait for a 5-minute trigger to get in. Okay, that way you're not just getting in. You actually have a reason to try to get a good entry. Okay, so you know, in this case, if this would have been Monday coming up, right here you had a trigger. Then right here you had a nice trigger with a combo. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. And again, these are short-term shorts that I'm looking at that have been successful in the past. For whatever reason, the first 3 days or so of next week are typically bearish. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at crude oil. So crude oil has had a couple nice up days, right? So that's exciting to me. Not because I'm taking this trigger. Like I didn't take this trigger today long, which darn it, I should have, right? But you know, we're topping here right around October, and I'm more interested in the short play. Now you could say, well, yeah, but we're been in this massive uptrend, but it broke through. Okay, so knowing we have a seasonal short coming for most of the rest of the year now, what I like about this is I love for it to head back up, maybe 42, maybe retest this 44. Then when we get a Laguerre trigger short, okay, that's what I'm looking for. So again, full disclosure, I did not plan on taking this long play. But if you got in at the open of the bar today, you know, if you're trading the futures there, right, that's almost $2,000 a contract there. Okay, and obviously you could trade USO as an example on the option play, but I am waiting to short this as we get closer. Okay. Gold's been about as boring as it gets, right? I mean, literally we just been in a box. Okay. I do think we're going to head higher until right here, middle of October. Then we'll head lower, and then we'll go to the trade of one of my favorite trades of the year long. Okay, but I do expect it to come back and then head back down. Okay, so again, gold has been consolidating, not a whole lot of action going on there. All right, NVIDIA. So if we do get that rollover over the next few days, you know, these are some stocks that you're going to want to look to buy, in my opinion. NVIDIA is my trade of the year, you know, based off of the seasonality and percent move. NVIDIA was #1 on my list. It's been, you know, a lot of these stocks have been looking similar to this, but, you know, we're going to continue to head higher. So if we get a discount on NVIDIA, buy some more, in my opinion. AMD, again, the reason I have AMD on the chart is just to show you that when we get to roughly November, okay, it's got a great play coming. So we're in this uptrend. Okay, we were consolidating, it broke out. Okay, and again, if you look back at the seasonal, folks, right, this was a good trade. It was forecasting that typical seasonal move here back in August. Okay, so it's not difficult, right? You just wait for triggers with that seasonal move. Okay, so I'm keeping this in front of you so you can see now. Let it continue down, and then we'll look to take it long again here in the near future. Okay, so that's how, again, I use seasonality to look at plays on, okay, when do I get in? You know, so for example, if I got a Laguerre trigger, let's say Friday long on AMD, would I get in? No, because we typically head down this time of year now. Doesn't mean it won't go, right? Because we're in an uptrend and, you know, it's a higher low. But my point is, again, just showing you the mentality of my trading. Why trade AMD long when there's going to be other seasonal trades that are in a good move right now with the seasonal move, right? So again, that's what I'm looking at as I'm doing my trading. Okay, Euro. This is a trade I'm in right now on the futures market. You could trade the FXE, but I got in right here, and it's a long play. You can see why. I basically have until end of the first week of October, and then it slides. And so again, because we're in this uptrend, consolidating, that's why I liked it. And of course, I have my stop right here. So if it goes against me here, right, no harm, no foul. But I am expecting this to hold right around 118 here, and then head higher this rest of this week. Okay. All right, let's look at some of these tech stocks as well then. So, you know, Apple hasn't been as strong as, you know, like NVIDIA, Tesla. And again, I know they had some announcements, you know, delay on their new phones and stuff like that. But, you know, again, here's the beauty. Everybody knows you want to go long Apple. Even forget seasonality, right? Apple's not going anywhere. So you can just wait and wait and wait until you get that trigger on that Laguerre. And when you're in a strong tech stock like Apple, okay, and you take those triggers off the Laguerre, you're going to like your results. Okay, let me just go back here. So, you know, this was COVID here. After COVID stopped, here was a trigger, here was a trigger. You know, so people will say, well, how many times this year did you trade Apple, right? All you really need to look at, this was an aggressive trade being that much overextended. Okay, here's a trigger. You know, so you can continue to just be patient. Okay, and if you don't want to be as patient, that's what I'm waiting on for Apple right now. But let's say you didn't want to be patient. Well, you could go to that 4-hour time frame, right? And you can see here, you know, wait for that next long play. Okay. We had some really good divergence here, short, but I'm not shorting Apple at this point. Okay, but my divergence hit that really nicely off of 4-hour. But that's okay. I let those go. I'm not going to fight that trend at this point. So Alan says, can you explain the difference between the white dashed lines and the red? Yeah, absolutely. Very important here. So let me explain. So the white dotted line on my seasonal here, okay, this goes up till current price. What this is showing you is this is what price, based off of the last 10 years of seasonality, this is what Apple historically should have done. Okay, which what I'm talking about is basically heading up. So back in late June, Apple had a seasonal long. Okay, so what that means is when you get triggers during that window, right, you want to take them long. And you can see actual price obviously went in that direction. Okay, So the reason why this white line is so important is this. If the white line, let's say, would have been forecasted to go higher, okay, but let's say actual price was ridiculously heading in the other direction. What that's telling you is Apple would not have been acting normal this year at this time frame. So I'm going to ignore trades right now on Apple if that was the case, okay? Now, again, it isn't the case. It's actually following its seasonal pattern really, really well. But if it wasn't following it, then seasonality, like a lot of systems, works the best under normal conditions. And remember, the markets are under normal conditions most of the time. And so think of this white line as almost like your news. Because if the white line was pointing up, but Apple was way down, okay, what that's telling you is it's not acting like it should have been. So stay out this year during this time, okay? And I can extend this white line further out back, but I like to keep it around 12 to 16 weeks. But you can always adjust it in the indicator because the further you go out, I'm more curious about the recent 12-week. Is it following that pattern and so forth? Okay, does that make sense, Alan? So that white line is a very important ingredient. So let's say, for example, you want to look at Ford. Okay, so here's an example right now. Back July 6th, we're looking at a seasonal short on Ford, okay? Price was heading higher. You see that? So Ford was stronger. Normally it's weak. This time of year it was stronger, okay? So would I be shorting this back here? No, because it's not following its normal short pattern. Probably because they were shut down. I used to work for Ford back before I got into teaching and trading. And, probably because they were shut down, they finally ended up, getting back to work and so forth. But that's why it's important, is you can quickly look to see, is Ford following its seasonal pattern? And you can say, well, no, this year it's stronger. So now that we're in an uptrend of seasonality, if I got another Laguerre trigger, like we did here, I don't trade Ford much, but if we did, right, that was a good play because it's been stronger than what it normally is anyway, and we have a seasonal long, okay? The setting for the white line, sure. So let me go in here. So the way I have it, okay, I have 12 here. 12 weeks is the trail anchor. This white line is called the trail anchor. You could change that to whatever you want. So let me go 16. Okay, and you'll watch this line extend out more. Okay, see how, let me fix it here. Okay, now it's out further. It's 16 weeks out. Okay, to me, 12 is a magic number, but you can go as far as you want. Okay. Okay. So Facebook, same thing here. Headed down. It's going to be a great rebuy here with you get a Laguerre trigger. Again, we don't have seasonality data on 10 years of Facebook, but it's following, the tech giants. So it's doing the same thing with high confidence there. Tesla, as I mentioned, the one that I'm personally in with the January expiration. If we had higher and hit new highs, I'm going to reduce my risk and get out a portion of my trade. But I'm in this to, I'm hoping it hits 650, 700 before the end of the year. Airlines, right? Been crazy. In fact, what is it? Delta, DAL, crazy strong. Again, this is where I'm really glad you brought that up, Alan, about the dashed line, because sometimes I assume people just know, right? Because it's something I do in my sleep. But here's a great example. We've heard all the news about Delta and airlines and all the struggles they had with COVID. But normally, when you look at the line here, it's a pretty flat seasonal back in, back since May, right? And then price started picking up, and now we have a seasonal long. So what this is telling me is this seasonal this year long, which the combo hit it perfectly, right here. But there was no reason not to take it, because if price would have been actual price, during a sideways market, if price would have been going like this, then we're like, okay, you're not following a seasonal pattern, don't take these longs, right? But it was actually, pretty strong and back and forth, but it was kind of sideways, just like the indicator says it should have been doing, okay? So, when I was mentoring some folks, I flat out told them, listen, I'm a little uncomfortable doing airlines because fundamentally it doesn't make sense to me, okay? But if you're going based off of pure seasonal data and how it's been following its pattern, okay, that was a really good trade, okay? That was a really good trade. So that's how you just kind of use a system. There's so much news out there, and you can double and triple think different things, right? But just really focus in on, is it looking like it should? And you'll be good. You'll be good. So I wanted to show ARWR, not because I made some good money on that today, okay, but, which I did. Okay, gapped up, right? I was in this trade. But again, the reason why I really want to show you this is this. Let me expand this for a minute. So again, look at this line. Basically, since June, we should have had it higher on ARWR, okay? And you've got a lot of green mountains coming. What does that mean? That's what this typically means, okay? It means it had significantly higher. So I didn't even read today what happened. There was probably some news on Arrowhead, okay? But, being in this trade with the trigger I got in, I was down and then I ended up making good money on it, okay? But again, here was my intention. With a good seasonal long, if I was going to add more into this position right here, but it didn't give me time. So what I'm looking for now is a pullback on ARWR to go long. But these are the ones you're going to have on your radar screen because they have these big percent moves. And again, if you hit them right, you can do really, really well. Okay, so these are ones that, again, it's got to pull back for us at this point. But worst case, put it on your list for next year that when you get right around June, start looking for those long plays, right? There was two triggers. There was one right here, and there was one right here. Well, actually three now, right? And then this one, okay? But I wouldn't go in right now, folks. Okay, and let's see, Amazon. So again, Amazon's giving us another great entry soon. When? We let the Laguerre tell us, okay, at least I do. That is why it's my favorite trigger point. It's not going to catch the absolute bottom, okay, but it's going to catch you this big portion of this trade here. So just wait on this. Wait for it to trigger with this massive uptrend. I didn't know there's any other company out there other than Amazon. So this will make you money, folks. Just wait on that trigger long, okay? All right. So that wasn't bad. 29 minutes. We got through that part of it. All right, let me bring up TradeStation. I'm gonna have to reload it. Darn it. Maybe it's okay. Okay. All right, so all I'm going to look for here is this is the combo. Okay, so I'm just showing you the combo. Now, what this is showing you, I've got a couple revisions that's coming, by the way. So on the combo, it's going to start giving me where you can sort by combo date as many days back as you want, so that you can then look at the results, immediately. So let's say you wanted to go 10 days back, you would have a setting here on the combo that said, okay, give me any triggers that happened over the last 10 days, and it'll sort it by in order of date for you. okay? And then you can go back and look. So I'm looking forward to that change. Should be in the next week or two, I'll have that update, okay? But, you know, look at all the combo trades long, right, that we had. Most of them are long versus the shorts, okay? That's pretty bullish, folks. Okay, that's pretty bullish. And on tomorrow's webinar, I'm going to be talking about my new indicator right here. And what it is it's only giving me Laguerre triggers if there's a seasonal move in that direction. Okay, because right now, you know, when you go back, for example, just so I don't confuse things, when you look at, like, let me bring up, let's see. I'm looking for a particular watch list. Bear with me. Well, let me do these. Let me do this for now. Okay. So once this loads, okay, and you sort by Laguerre, right? Remember, it's giving you all Laguerre triggers, right? But it's giving you them when they trigger, and it doesn't necessarily, you then have to look to see if it matches with a seasonal move, right? So for example, you know, here's a long, and then you look at ABT, and it's not significant, but it is a long move, right? So you could twist my arm and say, well, you're getting a long trigger, right? ADP, same thing. Okay, that's what you look for. Well, one of the advantages with TradeStation from a pure programming standpoint is that's already done that for me now. So if there would have been a Laguerre trigger that was long, but the seasonal was short, it wouldn't show me a trigger. So all of these that you see right here, all of these have a seasonal influence long, or else this wouldn't show you the trigger. Pretty cool, huh? Now you might say, well, what's your percentages? Here's the cool thing. You can format this. So here's what I did just for this demonstration. I said, only let the Laguerre trigger show me it triggers if that stock has a 5% move or greater over the next 60 trading days. Okay, that's what that 5 and 60 is. Okay, so all of these have a 5% move long over the next 60 trading days. And then with the input 1, which is just, I just want to show you, that's the input 3 is the 60 days. That way you can then see the percentage of it. So ACM has a trigger long. Okay, let's look at the screen right here. And the reason why it showed up here is because there's a 5% move or greater over the next 60 days. In this case, a 7% move. Okay, so I just went through 1,000 stocks. Okay, and TradeStation updates end of the day, which is nice, so that I can do my homework at night. But I just went through 1,000 stocks, and these are my focal point for tomorrow right here. Okay, because these all had triggers and they're following the seasonal pattern. Okay, so let's just kind of go through some of these and look at them. So I love ADP. You know, it's a great stock to trade. It's below the middle Bollinger Band. You know, this is a good opportunity. Baidu, again, NASDAQ got hit hard. Baidu keeps going. That's really bullish. But what it's doing, the real point, look at this combo trade on CME Group. Okay, look at that. Beautiful combo. And you've got a 5.55% move over the next 60 days. Okay, this is how I stay consistent, because I'm only looking at the best of the best, in my opinion, trades, opportunities. Okay, CME looks really, really good right now, doesn't it? Sorry about that. I didn't mean to hit that in your ears. Okay. Let's look at some that have a pretty nice move coming up. So CNR, it's a $10 stock, has that move coming. Yeah, I'm just grabbing, what I'm looking at is just some of these combo, like KLAC also is a combo with a 10% move coming. You know, look at that, okay? A lot of room to head back up to that top band on KLAC. MLCO is another one. Okay, he's got a big move coming. Monster Beverage, been talking about that, right? Everyone likes their beverage, Monster Beverage drink this time of year, right? NVIDIA, my favorite of my favorites, right? So again, this is how I scan, this is how I do my homework. Remember, I trade all three markets, right? I trade futures and Forex as well. So I just have another radar screen for those. I don't like to combine them all personally. Is there anything anybody wants me to look at here before I give a little bit more of something that I'm looking for here? Alan, I have another webinar tomorrow. Yeah, if you're on my sign up list, everybody should have gotten it. So if you didn't, it's probably in your spam. We are having issues with spam, so check your spam every day. If you still can't find it, email me and or email support, and we'll send you the sign up for tomorrow. Okay. All right, let's take a look at a few here, and then I want to talk to you today about kind of a concept that I'm looking at right now. So let's look at CSCO, Cisco. Okay, so this is a good one as far as we typically start heading higher in August, okay? But, you know, seasonally wise, it's sideways, right? And we've had this gap down, so it's really in a downtrend. So am I looking to trade Cisco right now? No, okay? INTC, let's take a look. So it's got a nice seasonal play. You do have earnings coming up on the 22nd. Be aware of that on Intel, okay? It had a big gap down on earnings, and it's been consolidating. So I don't love this for a couple of reasons. I mean, the gap's over. I'm not worried about that, but it really hasn't been doing that much, okay? So even though we have a Laguerre trigger here, you know, we're more of a downward momentum. There's better trades out there is what I'm getting at, okay? We can be very selective right now. JNUG, you know, one of my favorite gold plays. You're not going to see the seasonal because it hasn't been around long enough, but you just look at, you know, gold like we talked about. It's really been consolidating. One of the things, by the way, if this ever happens again, folks, on these leverage ETFs, when you can get them super cheap and hold on to them, okay, that is how you can grow an account for a long term, okay? So we'll talk more about that after the next market crash. We'll talk about some of these leverage ETFs, okay? You know, I actually trade Nugget. And let me tell you, back on this combo long, back in March, getting in at 43, right? It went up as much as 120. Now, I'm holding on to half of my position for the next 5 years, okay? I have my stop at break even. I've made, you know, good money on it already. But this doesn't happen all the time on some of these. So I'll be holding a webinar on that during the next environment that it gives some of these great buy opportunities on some of these leverage ETFs, okay? All right, Overstock. Oops. So again, seasonally, I like it. We had that Laguerre trigger. it actually had a really nice retracement, right? So way up, 50% retracement right around the 50 period. Now it's consolidating, okay? So if you like this at this price, not a bad looking opportunity at all, okay? I like to see it kind of, stay and hold, maybe get on the next 4-hour trigger long, because let's say we miss this. Then what you can do is go to your 4-hour and just wait for the next trigger, okay? Like we had a 4-hour combo there, which again, I wouldn't take that during this downtrend, but I would take a second trigger now on the 4-hour long, because now you're getting to higher lows, right? Okay. Sure, I went over Tesla. Let me go over it one more time. So this is a trade that I'm in long. I have a January expiration, though. It's a longer term. Got in. I'm expecting to hit new highs. Now, will in the next week? It's hard to say. I mean, it could really fast here, right? The way Tesla moves. I do expect a little bit of a pullback next week, but then head higher. If it heads up to these highs, though, in the next day or two, I'm going to take partial profits. But again, I have a end of January expiration based off of the nice seasonal move on Tesla here. And same with Amazon we talked about there. Okay. Good discount. So just wait for that Laguerre. Okay, that's all you have to do, and you have yourself a good high probability setup there. Okay. Okay. So what I want to do, I want to spend a few minutes today and explain. Everyone has different strategies, right? And let's say your strategy is part of your portfolio is you want to hold trades for, let's say roughly 6 months. Okay. So I do this all the time. So what I like to do is I like to go in here and I'm going to go to my seasonal indicator and it's input 3. I'm going to change this to 120 trading days. Okay. 120. So it's going to take a minute. It's got to recalculate, and there's over 1,000 stocks on here. Okay. But so while it's doing that, let me just talk through what I'm getting at it. So what I'm looking for is, if I want to start looking and buying some stocks and hold them for 6 months, and again, you could do this for 1 month, 2 months, a year. I'm just giving you an example of 6 months. I like to look at 6 months out on a portion of my portfolio. Okay. Whether you're buying the option or you're doing it straight out, buying the stock. So what I like to do is then I'll sort by percent move coming up based off of that. Okay. And I don't know if it's done yet. Let's see. Okay. Okay. And some of these you may not be interested in. You may only want dividend stocks and so forth. But, as an example, PLUG over the next 6 months has a really nice return, right? Of the stock itself. It should double. All right. It could double. And you can see that from the seasonal. So as an example, right, this is where you can just wait then for that next trigger. Here's one on OSTK, what we were just talking about, right? So if you're looking for a 6-month play on OSTK, now's probably a good time to do that option play or buying the stock for a 6-month hold. Because historically it's moved up 34% between now and the next 120 trading days. Okay? But that to me is the power of when you have this seasonal influence, because this is based off of the last 10 years of data. Okay? And yeah, you can change that. I could say, give me it, sorry, wrong one. Give me it 5 years or 20 years of data, whatever you want. Again, the further you go out, the less instruments you're going to have, right? Because certain stocks haven't been around 20 or 30 years. Okay? But this is a great strategy for finding big move. KLAC is the one we looked at. It's got a 16% move coming, and we got a combo trigger here with that. Okay, so if you entered in, okay, at 170 or 180 here, right, you have a good opportunity to make that return this year with high probability, okay? So that's one of the strategies I use. And, you know, again, I'm hiding these, right? Input 1 and 2. I just don't want to confuse everyone. This is the next 20 days. So you can then sort over the next 20 days and say, okay, what's the big move coming over the next 20 days? Okay. Look at CVI. 10% the next 20 days. Okay, just waiting on triggers. Here's one with the trigger, HP. 6% move, trigger. Okay, so again, what it's allowing you to do is find these high probability setups. And would I trade this one? No, why? Because there's better ones. We're in a downtrend, right? Why would you want to go long when you have all these other opportunities? Why would you want to go long on HP? So that, again, is how I look at some high probability setups. You know, DE, right? I love deer. I've got one. Been in this beautiful uptrend. If you're looking for just waiting on a trigger on deer, right, you could be in really good shape there. We don't want to go in at highs though. Okay. Okay. So that's one of the strategies that I use. What else we got here? So when you're looking at SIG, so if you're bearish, you know, as I mentioned, right, this is a CHS is a trade that had a nice trigger here coming down. And what you can do is if you're uncertain on which direction you think the market's going to go, right, you can take a nice short trigger on one of these great seasonal moves coming, you know, maybe MNKD as an example. Okay, look at that coming. But then you can also take a long play on something that has over a 15% move coming on the long side, right? I mean, Cheniere Energy is one of my favorites, right, to go long. Look at that move coming. So once we get that Laguerre trigger, so what you can do is you can have a good seasonal short, you can have a good seasonal long, and you can try to net the profit between the two. In a perfect situation, you'll make money on both because they're both seasonals in different directions, okay? But the other thing you can do is look to net. Overall, it's about growing your account. So try to net profit between the two. So you may have lost 20% on one and gained 50 on the other and made a 30% profit, okay? Okay, so what I like to do as I conclude today, great question on stop losses, okay? So let's just assume this triggered here, okay? And I got in this trade right here, okay? Here's how I handle it, because again, I'm a super simple guy, okay? I either get out of a trade one of two ways, and these are trades that are less than 3 months, okay? I'll get out if I at the end of the day, if I close below 50% loss, then I'll get out. Or if price closes below the bottom Bollinger Band, okay? The only decision I have to make is if it closes below the bottom Bollinger Band, but I'm only down 38%, okay, then I may stay in the trade. But on a 3 month or less option play or stock play, if I get down 50%, I'm out at the open of the next day, okay? Because if you're going to win 8 out of 10 trades, and you can have it pretty close to an equal win risk reward ratio, you can see how that adds up in your favor, okay? So that's how I have my stop losses. I don't put it in the system for options. If I'm trading the outright stock, I will. But I like to see it close at the end of the day. Because if it wicks, but closes above, I'm still in the trade. Okay? Because this is swing trading. I'm not day trading this. So that's why I don't even worry about intraday. I'll look at my charts in the evening. And if I'm long here and it closes below here, right here, okay, and this is the bottom band, then I'll get in, I'll get out at the open of the next day. The only exception would be if I'm not down 50%, then I might stay in. I might, okay? So Thomas has a great question as well. Great question, Thomas. If you're experiencing a 5% move, is there any reason not diagonal it and sell out of money options? You all can do absolutely the strategies that fit you the best. And what I mean by that is, you know with certainty something has a move coming, right? Based off of what I just showed you. There's a lot of ways to make money, right? You can sell puts, for example, right? You can sell puts, which means as long as let's say you sell a put, again, I'm very simple example, at 46. So as long as price doesn't come down and touch you in, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks, you get that premium that you got in there for. And you know, with high likelihood this is going to go sideways or higher, you can sell puts all day long. Or you can do diagonals, okay? My strategy is way simpler that I do publicly, okay? Because I know there's a big directional move. So I'll either do a debit spread long play, okay, or I'll do a straight call roughly at the money, okay? And what I do is, once I hit my profit target 1, let's say it's a 50% profit target 1, I eliminate my risk, but if the move still should be coming higher, right, that's how you make those runners, okay? That's how you get those runners. So the reason I wanted to answer that publicly, Tom, is if you know with high probabilities something's going in a certain direction, there's a lot of ways to play that. You can play that, right? I keep it super simple and I make money doing it, but there's so many ways to do that. You're absolutely right. So the key is to know that it has a high probability trade, okay? And then from there you can play it. And again, just going back and forth between systems here, I mean, you can bring up any stock you want. Let's say you're going to look at trading LB, okay? You know that you have a big move coming historically on this, right? You have a Lagarde triggered right here coming. So there's ways to play that, okay? There's a lot of ways to play that. The cool thing is you have the data, the percentage is telling you what should happen, okay? Excuse me. All that smoke out here. All right. Well, again, hope you enjoyed, folks. So if you didn't get an invite for tomorrow's webinar, check your spam. And then if you still don't have it and you want to attend, it's tomorrow afternoon, send us an email and we'll make sure you get that, okay? All right, folks, we'll have a great week. So again, big picture here, the markets are, they're looking more negative than positive right now, okay? But remember, let me bring this up one more time as a final thought. Let me bring up the Dow, okay? But remember, the trend is our friend. So even though early next week I do expect this to head lower, and I'm going to play this when that happens, what I'm really excited about is we're going to get an entry point somewhere over here to go long again, okay? That's the goal. That's the goal. All right, folks, we'll have a great rest of the week. Probably I'll see some of you tomorrow in the presentation. Good luck, everyone. Take care now. Bye.